Warning. The Dragon Between podcast may contain language and adult humor that is unsuitable for those 13 years and younger. Viewer discretion is advised. You're listening to the Dragon Between podcast, a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons campaign that takes place in the Eberron pulp fantasy setting created by Keith Baker. New episodes are recorded every Sunday and are released on the following week. You can find the video version on the YouTube channel, and if you like what you see and hear, feel free to drop us a like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter for updates and news on the podcast. Thank you for listening, and now on with the show.
Last time on the Dragon Between podcast, Zito and Eli were visited by a Modron representative from the Hall of Justice called 01. The construct informed the duo that it had been instructed to guide them to an appropriate location to begin their build projects. The Quadron then led the characters to an odd, multiplanar tavern called the World Serpent Inn.
Once inside the rowdy establishment, the party sought out the owner, Mitchifer, and selected one of the establishment back rooms. Programmable demi-planes offered to the patrons of the inn for daily use. After learning the rules for the inn, Zito and Eli set their terms with the owner and were led to their own personal workshops to begin the arduous task.
Back at the archive entrance hub, the remainder of the group, consisting of Red, Music, and Lithana, began the long process of petitioning access to vital information. After dictating their requests to a Modron assistant and debating which researcher they should choose, Lithana drew the attention of a devil called Lizette. The fallen angel expressed an interest in the party, specifically in their ranger companion, and offered its services in locating the information they sought.
The characters agreed to take Lisette on as their researcher, and met the fiendish woman at the entrance hub 5 days later, once their forms were approved. The group were then provided with Hellwasp mounts, and followed their researcher deep into the archive. After setting down in one of the many levels of the monolithic library stacks, the party, directed by Lisette, began to load their forms into the provided receptacles.
Before the group could begin retrieving information, a huge flying construct swooped down and began to go after Lithana. The characters scrambled to defend their friend from the predator, watching as the construct suddenly inhaled Lizette, ejecting the winged warrior behind it. Music quickly cast Featherfall on the fallen angel, and the battle continued. The creature continued to focus its attention on Lithana, cornering her near the dividing wall between the stacks.
As the prisoner attempted to snuff out the ranger, Red dealt the blow with her greatsword, slashing into a ruined heap. The group recovered from the encounter and learned from Lizette that the construct was manufactured assassin, programmed with the scent of its prey using a stolen personal belonging, in this case a single sock missing from Lithana's bag. The ranger then asked if she could investigate her archived history to ascertain the identity of the thief.
The fallen angel agreed to help the group and showed them how to retrieve data from the archive. After poring through the ranger's history, Lizette settled on a very recent event, a small weasel-like creature stealing Lithana's sock as she slept at Gutter Guts. The furry creature suddenly morphed and was shown to be that of the group's druid friend, Ari. Reeling from this shocking information, the party requested access to the druid's data. The group then viewed a sequence of events showing Ari talking to an unseen entity and later taking the pilfered sock to leather-clad archers.
After absorbing this revelation and debating what it might mean, the characters pondered their next step. The sounds of the wind howling around you all. Lisette has just finished showing you the latest archive information. And as you're all waiting to move on to the next article of information that you want to pull from this archive, you all begin to hear this droning noise coming from overhead. And you all hear now the sound of a voice calling out from above as you see a winged metallic warrior resembling a centaur swooping down with two hulking juggernauts floating just behind it. Petitioners, are you all right?
Yes, we're good. Thank you.
And they begin sort of hovering just off from these walkways in the stacks, surveying. You see the hulking Marut juggernauts flanking it, as it now says to you all, several unauthorized plane shifts have been detected within the archive, the majority of which have been uncovered as apparent decoys. Researcher Lizette, your presence is requested by Typhorium. There were some irregularities discovered in your petitioner's records which must be discussed. Your petitioners may wait here for their substitute researcher, Behel. And Lisette, who had already pulled herself up, standing, just sort of smirks in the direction of this winged centaur and looks to you all and says, well, you all know how to operate the archive now. I shall take my leave. And she begins walking towards, instead of lifting up with her wings immediately, she begins walking towards the edge of one of the landing platforms. And looks back at all of you. Perhaps I'll see you again. Perhaps not. Only time will tell. Farewell.
Bye.
And Lisette.
Lisette,
Yes.
where can you be found?
Second star to the right, straight on till morning, dear. And she winks at you and lifts up into the air with a mighty beat of her wings. Several of her flight feathers are gone, burnt away by the battle with the predator. But she's able to lift up in the air and begins flying off with the centaur and one of the armored juggernauts. The other second armored Marut juggernaut is now floating still near all of you. You can see its big eye scanning around, looking up, looking down, looking to the side. And wherever it looks, you can see a beam of soft white light emitting from its pupil. And you are all left to your own devices for the moment.
Well, that was interesting.
For sure. Thanks for having my back. Back there. She turns to her friends.
This one does not understand why Ori would hurt you, Bethana.
Well, I can understand that I guess I can in some ways. And she kind of lowers her voice. Victorio Castellanter is a manipulator. He uses mind control and all sorts of things, so whether she was under that influence, I would not be surprised, but she just kind of averts her eyes for a second. But I have also done much evil to her, not on my own accord, but under that mind control, so truly I would not be surprised, nor would I be angry if she decided to have her revenge.
There's a sound of wings in the distance. not too dissimilar from the sound that Lisette's wings make. Seems to be getting closer to where you all are all now.
Hey, look, somebody's coming.
And best I can describe, a shirtless individual with very, very finely chiseled muscles. Skin is that of alabaster. His hair is sort of like a sunny blonde color, and he has these wide white wings. And he swoops down and lands in a 3-point stance on the platform where Lisette had gone off to. And he looks to all of you and he says, "Greetings." And he looks like this. And he looks to each of you, taking you all in, saying, "My name is Behel. It is my understanding that your researcher was called away. I came as fast as I could."
That was a cool landing, but that had to hurt.
"I have practiced for many, many cycles."
I'm gonna whisper with my friends. You hear that? He practiced looking cool.
Let's see. And you watch as he now pulls out a scroll and uncaps it out of a tube, and he begins to stretch it out, and he looks at it and says, "Yes. Divorium informed me that apparently there were some irregularities in the forms that you submitted 5 days ago."
It's not our fault. We just told the little robot things what to do, and if they took it down wrong, that's on them.
Well, the dictation was not the problem. The problem was that your researcher elected not to tell you that you were only approved for 2 searches in the archive. Mortals are typically not allowed to have access to the archive, so I was quite surprised that they even accepted your forms since you asked for so many different things.
Oh, wow. Well, since we've been down here, Lizette looked up all kinds of stuff, but yeah, we still got 2 things we need to look up.
Well, since it is not your fault, I will allow 2 more research inquiries before I must insist that you return. I've already arranged for travel back to the entrance hub, and you can now hear the sound of a soft whinnying somewhere in the distance, and more sounds of like a flock of birds flying, really big birds, and every once in a while a snort and a whinny from a horse. And you can now see 3 Pegasus, which are just sort of flying around in a figure 8 formation up above the stacks, right above where you all are. And Behel steps forth and says, "So then, what shall we research first?"
Lithana pulls out a list and says, "I guess we decide on just 2, so in 1 second I will put it in the chat."
And don't get me wrong, if you have more things that you wish to research, you can certainly check back with the archive administration again. I believe typically they allow mortals to visit once every 5 cycles. Or, I apologize, 5 years. Not cycles.
I see. Well, she gives the list to Verred and music to look at. What's the most important things?
And if you 3 would like to discuss that, I will transition to Zito and Eli, so you guys can have time to go over that.
Sure.
That's up to you 3.
I'm actually indifferent because a lot of the things they need to discuss, I wasn't there and part of. All the questions I had have been answered already.
Very well. I will transition over to Eli and Zito. Within the demi-plane, the workshop back room, Zito and Eli, you have observed for quite some time over the course of the last 5 days comings and goings of the tight fitting clothing diminutive individuals that would come and bring you food and drink and various other requests. You've seen all of the materials that you have asked for delivered in a timely fashion. You've been able to begin your builds earnestly. And again, the chamber is vaulted. There are 4 pillars in each corner of this square-shaped room, somewhat squarish, rectangular room. You have a couple of forges, so you have the ability to work on multiple projects without getting in each other's ways. You have several workbenches, and you have big stone raised daises to work on the projects that you've begun. And as you're going over your builds and dealing with the little diminutive metallic servants that have been assisting you all with mundane tasks, you all hear a very pronounced knocking on your wide double doors to the southern end of this chamber. First time someone has knocked, usually the helpers just come in and announce themselves.
Zito, would you mind getting that?
Oh, sure. It's not like I'm busy or anything. Zito will grumble and go and answer the door.
And as you are allowing the chamber to open, the steam from the workshop sort of creeps out into the hallway beyond, and you see a robed man with sort of olive-colored skin and a beard, and he smiles and looks to you and says, "Greetings, little one. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I had overheard that 2 very mighty ones were here in this establishment working on some very delicate work, and I was interested in possibly viewing this and observing you. It is so rare that I get to see folk in this place that are interested in the artificery or tinkering or the arcane arts, if you will. Most folk just come in to drink and eat food and pound each other in the face." But I apologize, I have not even introduced myself. My name is Kraksha.
Well, hello there.
Might I come in?
I mean, yeah, I guess it's all right.
Thank you so very much. And you can see as he's looking around the workshop, not looking at your tables at the center of the chamber where you're working. He's just sort of taking in the whole chamber, the way it's been designed to yours and Zito's specifications. He looks over and he sees a very warm fireplace with a couple of chairs set up with a table. He sees your multiple workspaces that are set up. He sees over towards the eastern wall, he can see food storage and a couple of beds set up. Very simple, nothing too lavish. And he looks to the 2 of you after taking this whole place in. He says, "My word, the stories are true. I hope it's not too forward. I was curious as to what you were working on."
Oh, what stories have you been hearing?
Well, to be honest, I've heard that someone somewhere was building a golem. Is that true?
Who's asking?
I am. Graxa is asking. I myself am a bit of a dabbler in the arcane arts myself. I've never seen a golem constructed before, but I am aware that it takes quite a bit of coin and quite a bit of time to construct one successfully.
Yes, indeed it does.
I had also heard that an artificer had been seeking to craft and settle down and make something. It didn't say exactly what, but it's something powerful. Again, these are just rumors from around the main room of the tavern. I wanted to come and see for myself.
Well, let me know when you find that artificer.
And he just sort of giggles to himself. Oh, please. Sir, you're too modest. Clearly, you are a man of well-renown.
Really, because where I'm from, I'm usually the one that gets ignored.
Well, ignored? Someone would ignore you? That is so very rude.
I don't mind it,
You two don't mind
especially when everyone else is trying to kill everyone else.
That is absolutely horrible, but I do understand what you mean. You two don't mind if I partake in a little bit of, and he clicks his tongue and winks at you both, and you can see now he's pulling out a long-stemmed pipe, and he's pulling out a little bag.
No,
Do you
no
have-
drugs here.
Do you have extra?
Oh, did you want some?
Is that the blue smoke in the hallway?
Oh no, my friend, this is a special blend. This is very mellow. It doesn't have the same effects of the owner's stuff. This is my own personal blend. I grow it myself. This gives you a very I would say almost an aphrodisiac quality to it. It's a very fine smoke, doesn't burn the lungs too much.
Interesting.
And it most definitely helps you focus, I have found.
Mind if I have some?
By all means. And he begins to pack the long-stemmed pipe, and he taps the side of it a few times, and you watch as he takes a crystal and holds it over it, and a bit of a spark comes off of the crystal, and he takes a few puffs to get it started for you, and then he turns it around slowly as to not tip out the embers, and hands it over to you.
Oh, I wasn't gonna smoke. I was gonna do some research on it. I was curious about, substance, if you want.
Feel free to, so to speak, as the children would say, take a hit for yourself, and if you would like, I can give you a sample you can take with you.
All right. I will grab it and.
It's kind of funky. The smell immediately assaults your senses. It smells a little bit like a skunk's ass, but immediately you feel a rush. Goes straight to your head immediately, and you just feel like your entire body is stuffed with cotton candy. All from one hit.
What's up, Zito?
And he turns to you, Zito, and he says, would you like some?
No, that stuff reeks. I have no interest in putting that anywhere near my face.
Very well. I understand. It is not for everyone. And he now gestures with his hands. He holds out for the long stem pipe. And you can see he's wearing sort of like a mauve-colored robes. And there's like a bit of an overlap around the shoulders, which have this strange pattern that looks like ferrets or otters. And they're embroidered all around the neckline. And he has just beneath his beard, you can see that he has this long golden chain with a medallion on the end of it, and the medallion also has more what appear to be water-based furry creatures like otters that are sort of chiseled into this gold-like medallion. And he takes the pipe from. Thank you so very much. You said your name was
Eli.
Eli. Okay. Well then. And he looks to you, Zito, and he says, "And your name was again?"
My name is Zito.
Zito. Okay then. Well, I didn't want to take up too much of your time. You have quite a ways to go before you're finished with your projects. And he starts to turn around to leave, going towards the doors, and then he stops. However, I was curious. These projects you're working on take some time, do they not?
Of course.
And has anyone explained to you how these rooms work?
Not that I know of. Other than the attendant or the keeper.
Well, each of the back rooms in this place are designed by the owner to replicate the environment, if you will, of the individual that lives within. So it's a palatable environment, not unlike wherever you two are from. This appears to be very much not too dissimilar from the material plane, I take it. And he kind of sniffs the air. Yes. I'm getting sort of an industrial tang to the air. But by the very nature of the place that we are, and its connection to Donvi, did anyone explain to you how the flow of time is slowed down so that you may take the exact time that you need to complete your tasks?
What do you mean? Time is slowed down.
Well, at Donvi, compared to the material plane, for example, things are to a factor of 10. 10 days are here is 1 day on the material plane. However, within this demi-plane, this workshop, if you will, which is lovely, by the way, you are not experiencing the flow of time. As it is in Donvi, you are experiencing each day as it would be back on your home plane. Was this not explained to you?
I'm not following here. As Eli kind of like dozes, like his eyes, you know.
Well, let me put it this way. I assume that you're doing these projects because you wish to complete them as quickly as possible, correct? Most folk who create something like this, you have to deal with the length of time that it takes to complete this task. It's back-breaking work, I assume so. Time-consuming.
Of course, and...
Wouldn't it be fortuitous if an individual who was familiar with this place were to perhaps turn fortune to your favor and manipulate the room a bit to speed things up?
I like where you're going.
Oh, well, lovely. Well then, I just so happen to be someone who is familiar with these demi-planes, these back rooms, and I was curious if you would like me to assist you. And I would only ask in return, I would not ask for coin or magical things, I would only ask for a favor in return.
And
No.
what's the favor?
Oh, well, that can be up to you. The favor can be, it is negotiable. The favor will, of course, be something that one day I will come to each of you with a task. Might be Next week, might be next month, might even be next year. I'm very busy man, so I won't bother you and interrupt your busy schedules by dropping work in your lap, so to speak, or dropping a task, if that is agreeable. I could also offer another avenue, if you'd be interested. Have you ever heard of the law of surprise?
No. Zido, did you say no?
You really don't you're really gonna trust this guy that we don't know?
Are you saying that? Are you saying this in front of him?
Of course.
And he looks to you. My little friend, please don't insult me. I apologize for being so forward, but this is the way we do things here. Time has no meaning in the common room or in World Serpent Inn. But it could have a meaning for you. If someone knowledgeable about these types of places were to manipulate things under the watchful eye, under the nose, if you will, of the owner, you would never know. And it would be to your benefit, and I would take a modest fee in return.
No, I don't. It's not a deal I'm willing to accept.
Unfortunately, my brother's here.
That's so disappointing, but that's okay. I understand completely. And he turns, he looks at you, Eli. He's continuing to puff away on his pipe, taking a long drag. And he blows the smoke out up into the air, making a ring that travels up towards the vaulted ceiling. Alas, you, my friend, you are clearly a very powerful wizard. Are you not? Your time is very valuable, is it not?
I wouldn't say powerful, but I'm a humble man. But you could say it again.
Clearly, you too modest. You two are so very modest. You're clearly very important individuals. And I'm not trying to puff you both up, so to speak. But again, I was very much interested in seeing the two individuals, yourselves, Eli, Zido, seeing the projects that you're working on, and I wanted to offer my services if you were interested. But if you're not, and he starts to turn around and go towards the door. Just to think, and he calls back as he's walking away, he's starting to say, more than 6 months or less, or a matter of days.
Gio's gonna close the door behind him.
Was anything fishy? Like true sight?
Your true sight or your ethereal sight?
Oh, well, I guess, yeah, the ethereal sight.
No.
Anything fishy? No? Okay.
I mean, you saw what you always see when you use ethereal sight. You saw neon fish of various shapes and sizes swimming around and dancing like they're in a Disney cartoon. The door begins to swing closed, blocking your sight now of this strange man called Kraksha and his very generous offer.
Zito's gonna lock the door.
Okay. And with that, we will transition back to our other three companions of Red, Music, and Lethana. The diva Behel has been slowly pacing up and down the gantry, looking around, smiling, very soft smile as he looks to each of you. And he looks and he says, well, have we decided?
Hold on. I'm almost finishing my story. And that, ladies, is how I saved the winter solstice, or as they called it there, Christmas. Saved it completely. Okay, so have y'all made decisions while I was telling my story?
Lithana looks at both of them. Well, it was a very engaging story, so Well, here's the top 3. We've at least narrowed it down. Either looking up Victoro Castellenter, Mordekesh, or Theorwyn Stormbringer, which can that be looked up? And she asked that to her winged friend.
Oh, you're asking Behel what exactly?
Are we allowed to look up Theorwyn Stormbringer?
And Behel looks to you and he just sort of narrows his brow and says, I don't see why it would be something that you would not be permitted to look at. Let me take a look. And he heads over to the wall and places his hand on the orb and looks around. He says, I'm afraid this file is sealed. Doesn't happen very often. Must be someone who did something very, very bad.
Well, I suppose that decides it then. And she points him to her little highlighted sheet. Victoro Castellenter and Mordekesh.
These are the 2 individuals, the 2 beings that you wish to look up their personal history.
She looks over to Red and to Music.
Yes.
Very well. Which one would you prefer to look up first?
I've had my go. Maybe Mordekesh first?
Mordekesh. Okay. Step forward, place your hand on the orb, and think of this being's name, and we shall begin.
And Mifana motions Music to go forward.
I step forward and place my hands on the orb.
And the wall once again reveal it was once just a solid piece of bluish marble and now becomes a viewing window, if you will. And you can see a mist with all these various pinpricks of light, much, much more than what you've seen on any of the entries that you've looked at so far. And Behel says, oh my, this is very, very long-winded. Is there a specific era that you were wishing to look at? I'm afraid that we'll be here for years going through this individual's history.
Considering Music's experience with Mordekesh in the past, does Music know of a specific instance that would indicate a weakness in Mordekesh or a moment of weakness in Mordekesh?
Well, what Music would know of Mordekesh is a very mighty fiend. He is a member of the Lords of Dust, which is an order of Rakshasa who follow after many different overlords. Mordekesh himself, you would know, Music, from your time staying on his ship, the Shadow Sword, would know that Mordekesh was the mightiest general who ever worked for Raktul-Kesh, the Horned Prince, one of the most dangerous overlords to have been sealed away by the Coatl and the Silver Flame.
All right, let me think. Bear me 1 second, I'm just thinking real quick.
Okay. I can move on. We can do another search. We can start looking at Victoro's search if you want.
Yes, please. I need to think about this because there's got to be a key moment. I just got to think about it.
Behel begins to move past you, patting you on the shoulder, and gestures to another receptacle not too far away, and says, the name Victoro Castellenter. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Very well. And once again instructs you to place your hand onto the orb on the receptacle. The same information pops up, the misty wall turning into a view screen with the pinpricks of light to various points in time and the life, the deeds, the many deeds that Victoro Castellenter has done. And This one is shorter. I would say it would be between Mordekesh's timeline and Auri's timeline, or yourself, Luthana. And Behel looks at you and says, is there a specific thing that you were looking for in his history? Specific deeds, past, present?
Well, I'd like to see what kind of alliances he has forged, and then most recent history.
Curious. There are blank spaces here. Almost as if... Oh, that's impossible. There are moments, and he begins gesturing towards the timeline where you can see where the pinpricks of light stop, and there's big blank sections, and then they start again. It's very strange. I only see gaps of these through only a few reasons. Either the individual was dead, and then resurrected, or they were possibly shielded from the sight of the Panopticon. In fact, there is a great many of these, and he gestures now. It's just dotted across the timeline as it stretches forth across the screen. You just see whole entire sections of space that are blacked out. You wish to look at allies, connections, if you will. Deeds.
Yes.
Let's see. I can see here that this individual is apparently a noble of some sort, as a wife. No children to speak of. Holdings all over Corvair, a very great holding in Sharn. A company or two here and there. Castellanter Corporation, interesting. Something called an Atlas Slate. That's strange. You mortals and your contraptions, always messing with the arcane. I'll get you in trouble. I see an entry here. Holdings, quite a few holdings all over Corvair and in other continents as well. A few, here is an entry in Sarlona, for example. And he gestures to the continent of Sarlona, which is the birthplace of your former husband. This appears that Victorio Castellanter was not always his name. It apparently changed it when he came over to Corvair. He was once known as Castellanter.
I see.
Castellanter, and more of those blank spaces, I'm afraid. Seems like there's an entire blank space before he just simply becomes or is Castellanter, as you can see. And you can see now that the log continues to go on. It was not quite as short as you thought it was. Just a long blank space before his time in Sarlona. And then he says, very curious, Castellanter. And he goes back to the very beginning of the timeline now and stops. Follower of the path of light. A farmer. And then nothing. And then suddenly a noble. Very curious. Almost as if this individual slept for years and then was suddenly awake as a new person.
That would make sense.
Was there anything else you wanted to explore in this part of the timeline?
The Atlas Slate.
Bit closer.
Any specific conversations about that?
Indeed. Let's see. And he begins going through the timeline, not too dissimilar from how Lisette went through the timeline with her hands, just sort of feeling along the wall. Comes to a specific point. Ah, yes. The very first entry. It appears to be a joint operation, the creation of which with an artificer named Galen Amastasia. Doesn't look like it lasted very long. It almost appears as if this Castellanter took that information and gave it to another.
Who was that?
There's a bit of a blank space here. Unfortunately. It does look like it was given to another artificer, though. There is something before it closed. An artificer named Roderick? And continues to scan through the information. Hold a moment. Roderick. Ah, yes. Roderick Wildheart was a boy who grew up in the Eldine Reaches and eventually became the someone who worked directly for this Castellanter. Very many of his projects, in fact. He is mentioned many times for a great many years. Anything else from this specific era?
Anything about the use of the Atlas Slate? The purpose?
Appears to be a communication device. Oh, you're mentioned quite a few times in his history as well around this time and afterwards.
And Lithana kind of cringes. It's like...
It brings up a moment where Castellanter is handing you an Atlas Slate. And a wave of energy comes off of it. And you drop to the floor like a sack of potatoes. And Castellanter is seen just sort of looming over you. He's this very handsome man, very fine hair, sort of swept back, almost like a flock of seagull style hairdo, and he's looking over you, smiling, and he looks down and he says, "Wake up, Lithana. Wake up. How are you feeling?" And you just see yourself taking the slate and tossing it like a frisbee away from you and spitting in the direction of it and begin arguing, and the scene just sort of fades. Ooh, you're very cross with this Castellanter. Someone that you have some history with, no doubt.
Yes, and Lithana points at the image to Music and Red. And you see why I don't like Eli's Atlas Slate?
Well, I mean, I guess.
Finding a few entries here for the Atlas Slate, and then looks like, again, a complete blank. It's almost as if this individual forgot that it existed. At least during this time period. Did you want to press forward? Or continue to go through this time period?
More recent history. And she looks over at Red and Music and said, "Thank you for your patience."
Curious. It's a bit of a blank, I'm afraid. It seems after a few years, not too recently, actually, nothing. There's the entry of Victoral Castellanter and holdings in Sharn with his wife and estate, and then nothing. Seems to live his life in Sharn. And he brings it all the way forward to like present day, and now says, "Yeah, there you are." And it shows now you see an individual who is seated at a desk in a very lavish and posh office, and he's writing with a quill pen. You can see he's having trouble getting the quill to take ink from the inkwell. And you see a female glide into the room, resplendent in silks, sort of this silvery silk gown, clearly a gown for someone who's going to go to sleep. And you hear her call out, "Victoro, dear, it's time for bed." Was this the individual that you wished to look at? Bit mundane. I can see an entire history of all sorts of instances of dealing with day-to-day ins and outs of a noble, running their company in this Castellanter Corporation, manufacturing, distributing those slates that you mentioned, and something else, some sort of a larger version of it appears. Nothing major, though, just purchases, lots of purchases of land. And more mentions of pylons. And something called a mind seed engine. And you can see now that there's a moment it brings it up where Roderick is apparently speaking to someone that you can't see, and you just hear him saying, "Yes, of course. It will be done." And he's hastily scribbling something in common into a book, and he slams the book shut and then goes hastily to a safe and begins doing the combination and puts it inside of it, then closes the safe. And you can see it looks a little bit peaked, a bit pasty, as he turns away from the safe, looking around the room, almost expectantly, like he's waiting for something to happen. And then he collapses in his chair. And then you watch as he reaches out to a bit of scrap of paper on his desk, and he begins writing the word engine over and over and over again. Like he's doing auto writing. Like he just starts making swirls with his quill and begins writing the word engine, 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 over and over again.
Curious.
Was there anything else that you wanted to look into? Something in the past? Going back through his timeline? I'm quite certain your companions wanted to. Perhaps they're ready to go through their research. We can come back to you if you like.
Well, there is one more thing. If she looks over at Red and he's like, "Sorry, is that okay?"
I'm in a rush.
Okay.
Dan and Aisha and Amir Aisha. Do those people appeared in his timeline?
And Behal just sort of, he furrows his brow for a moment. He says, "Wait a moment. Yes. Strange. I see those names." And he pulls up a scene now of a garden, a beautiful garden on a sunny day. And you can see that woman who you previously saw speaking to Victoro Castellanter is now holding Donan. And on the ground in front of her, you can see the other is now playing with some wooden toys. There's a few entries for those. Their names were Danin, Aisha, and what was the other name?
Amia Aisha.
Amia. Yes, I have a few. a few entries here. One entry says, looks like they spent some time in Sharn, and then they were taken abroad. Doesn't say where. I don't see any more entries in Castellanter's history. Just that they were at the estate, and now they are no longer at the estate.
Dang it. Well, thank you.
It says within the last year they were at that estate, actually. And then, you're from the material plane, yes?
Yes.
Looks like they left the estate a few months ago. And that was the last entry for those two names. I apologize. Wish I could be more help in this instance.
No, that's fine. I'm done. Music, you're up.
Okay. So Mordekash, he's got a lot of contacts and a lot of power that he gauges just based off of who he knows and how many people work for him. Plus, he's quite powerful on his own. I want to see recently his day-to-day operations, who he's in contact with, who he's doing business with, what kind of magics and illusions does he have at his disposal that he is currently employing on a regular basis.
Mordekash. Let's see. Oh, very strange. As I stated before, this one has a very lengthy timeline. So were you looking for something recent?
Yes, his normal day-to-day activities and communications recently.
Recently? Let's see. Well, it looks like this individual spends the majority of their time on some sort of flying fortress called the Shadow Sword, which is odd because there's an entry in here that says that Mordekash also goes by that very moniker as a nickname, the Shadow Sword. It looks like Mordekash spends quite a few years, actually, spending many years on this vessel. It is a planar traveling vessel of some sort. A flying planar vessel.
And is there anybody that regularly visits that vessel, like on a routine basis, that he's doing business with?
I see very many individuals, whole list of names, and an encyclopedia of individuals of various titles coming and going at all times, visiting this Shadow Sword.
Give me your top 5 most dangerous.
I'm afraid you're going to have to be a bit more specific. It's not how the archive works.
You really should add a danger index meter to everybody that's in this archive. It would make searching so much simpler.
I understand your meaning, sir. The Panopticon simply records the deeds of beings. It does not necessarily categorize how dangerous they are unless they commit crimes against Anvi.
Well, what's Mordekash been up to lately?
Let's see, some time spent in the astral plane, hopping back and forth to the Shavaroth, yes. Looks like it's on Shavaroth right now. And you can see now this roiling battlefield, this blasted landscape with these angry dark clouds and meteors, fireballs raining down from the sky constantly. And you can see this black iron vertical tower flying in the sky above this battlefield. The battlefield, I should mention, is not too dissimilar from the one you saw Samael rocketing across on that vehicle.
Yes, has the name Samael been mentioned by him recently? Or any of his context?
Strange. Actually, yes, quite a few.
Oh man, buddy, what have you gotten yourself into?
It looks like this individual is someone who appears to be marked for death by the Lords of Dust. That is very curious.
Yeah, you'd have to know Samael.
Indeed. Well, was there anything more specific that you wanted to ask about Mortikesh?
No, he doesn't appear to be an immediate threat to us right now. And I don't know of any specific way to look up an individual weakness on him other than, weaknesses that most Rakshasa possess anyway.
And you've been watching as if a camera that is panning in, zooming in on the bridge of the Shadow Sword, and it zips into the front-facing windows of this massive flying fortress, and it zooms in on a throne, this throne twisted iron metal, and you see this individual wearing plate armor, the feline features, fiery red eyes, and he's holding aloft a sword, a huge sword which is inflamed, which is resting against his leg. And as the image is getting closer to him, he suddenly winks at you.
Man, he is
Not
good.
sure if he's winking at you, but he definitely winks.
Yeah, that seems about right. Okay, I'm done here.
Okay. Back to Lithana. And Behel now is looking, and he says, Lithana, Aisha, correct?
Yes, that is right.
I am so very sorry. I'm afraid that there's actually multiple timeline entries here. And he watches the timeline goes from one to several branching timelines, and it just seems to go on and on and on. It says, this is impossible. How could there be multiple people known as Castellanter or Castellanter? I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, dozens of individuals here, all named Castellanter.
You mean...
And again, you're seeing you're seeing these branching points that seem to be interconnected to the differing individuals on this timeline now, and you're seeing familiar blank spots within the pinpricks of light, which are the deeds of these individuals. And he looks to you and says, "This is very unorthodox. Was this Castellanter a spellcaster? Do you think that there's a possibility that they created a simulacrum for themselves? Which that could possibly explain this irregularity in the record."
I'm not sure what a simulacrum is, but...
A simulacrum is essentially a clone of yourself. Very powerful spellcasters use it to stave off death, essentially creating another version of yourself that would activate at the moment of your demise.
And Lithana kind of furrows her brow for a moment.
I'm not sure if that is what's happening here with this person. And he looks to you and he says, I am afraid that this would require many years of research to go through each timeline.
Now does your whatever you call this, the archive, does it monitor things based on what, spirit, cell, or the brain function? What is the defining feature of what makes a person?
Oh, well, think of it like this. Have you ever heard of the spell Scouring?
Yes.
Think of it as a person who is viewing you, who is watching. Not unlike the one is watching us right now. That's strange. And he now gestures off towards nothing, pointing away from you all. That's very strange. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Is someone scrying on us right now?
Yes, it would appear someone is looking. Not sure where the source is coming from, but And you watch as he suddenly just sort of points and hovers his hand. Now you can see a brilliant orb suddenly materialize, like a floating golden eye, a lidless eye.
Can you make it go away, please?
And he looks to you. He looks at your companions, and he says, afraid that is beyond my abilities. And as he says that, the golden lidless eye suddenly stops manifesting. It suddenly just winks out of existence. Ah, it's gone. That's so weird. So strange. You don't have any companions that might be trying to check in on you anywhere across the plains, would you? Friends? Enemies?
She looks over at the image of Casareter on the screen and says, uh-huh.
And Behel is manipulating the timelines now to show faces. And you're seeing all these faces of individuals that have bared the name Castellanter. Make an intelligence check, Lithana. They look familiar. It's almost like you just woke from a dream and you're trying to recall it, but you can't quite place your finger on it. But it's a memory. They all look so very familiar. These faces. Like you've seen these faces. Like you know these faces. But you can't quite remember where that references to. And Behel says, well, if there's anything else, we can continue. Otherwise, I must insist that you return to the entrance hub and check out of the archive.
Were the faces different from each other, or were they all the same?
They all appeared to be males of what appeared to be human. Most of them appeared to be men in their mid 20s to late 30s. None of them looked particularly alike, but most of them seemed to have various like facial features that were similar, like a similar bone structure, if you will, like pronounced cheekbones, not too different from the first Victorial Castellanter that Behel showed you, the noble.
Well, thank you very much. Red music? Anything else?
No, I'm good.
Nothing for you, Red?
Red's power went out. So
Oh, no. Okay.
Oh, no.
yeah, she's been gone for like half an hour.
Oh, geez. Well, we will assume that Red has been nodding furiously, agreeing with how messed up this situation is. And if there's nothing else, Behel closes down all of the research. All of the nodes lose their glowing, whatever this place does to that information, you're not sure, but the orbs stop glowing, the walls return to normal, and the Pegasus are brought down to the landing platform so that you can mount them and follow Behel back to the hub. The familiar sights and sounds, a little bit different. Instead of the sound of the buzzing of membranous wings, you hear the constant fluttering of wide feathered wings from the back of your Pegasus as the creatures follow after the diva named Behel. And after a while, you watch as the angels swoop down towards the middle of this big structure. It's almost like a stop sign shaped area, this flat area with many tables and bookcases and stacks and carts, and this big central area, a raised dais where you all spoke to the strange individual, the librarian, when you first came to this place. Behel sits down and says, once again, I'm terribly sorry for the confusion. I know that you had made quite a few requests, and I'm very sorry that you weren't able to get all of your requests taken care of today. You can petition again, as I said, in 5 years.
Thank you for the reminder.
Well, it was quite my pleasure. And if you have anything else, before I let you all go off on your own, I can, the Pegasus can take you back to the city, if you will. If you require transportation. And he's, of course, referring to the large metropolis on the outskirts of the Hall of Justice. This is endless buildings. It's like Sharn times a million. Just high rises that stretch on forever, all across the surface of this place. Do you have a destination? He looks to you, he looks to Red, he looks to music.
I wasn't here when we first got here, so I don't know exactly where to say we're going.
I think we'll just return to Zito and Eli, and she'll pull out her ring. Zito, Eli, where are you guys?
There's a strange feedback. Before you can even begin to speak into your ring, Lithana, you hear a familiar voice that's crackly, that's trying to get through on your ring. You just hear a voice saying, Eli? Zito? Lithana? Red? Is anyone still attuned to the ring? The sound of Ender.
Zito is going to answer Ender. This is Ender, is something wrong?
Yeah, where have you all gone off to? And Lithana, you are also hearing this as well, because you tried to reach out first to Eli and Zito. So you're getting this feedback, if you will. The sound that's coming from Ender is coming from your ring, where you and Eli are, Zito, and the sound is coming out of your ring, Lithana, where you, Red, and Music are. And Ender says, where have you all gone off to?
Well, Eli had to give a testimony to some Modrons in another dimension, or another realm.
Right. Okay. So, funny story. Auri just came barging into my room in the middle of the night, going on and on about how she's betrayed Lithana and led us all to ruin, and it's all going to shit. And then she ran off and turned into a bird before I could get a word in.
Wait, what?
I said Auri just came to my room and woke my ass up in the middle of the night and told me that she has betrayed everyone, specifically Lithana. Didn't elaborate, I might add, and took off. I don't know where the hell she is.
I think we gotta go get her.
And now you start to hear a knocking noise. Something heavy on wood. And you hear Ender say,
Is there a second exit?
who's there? No, the sound is coming from your ring. And Ender says, who's there? Ari, is that you? And then you hear a crash and a sound of wood splintering and cracking. And now you hear the sounds of struggle and yelling and swords clashing, glass breaking. Then silence.
Pack up, Ender, we're going now. Or Eli.
Oh, leave this place? But we only got here.
Yeah, Ender and are already in trouble, Eli.
Yeah,
We're gonna
Eli,
go help him.
Eli, unless he was across from you, like not standing next to you, he would have heard everything. I just imagine Eli is trying to, like, you know, ride the high from the buzz that he got off of what he took a puff off of. He's trying to remember that feeling. Guys, I think Eli is, like, hooked.
Who are they again? I need to get more of
Pack
this
up,
stuff.
Eli. It's time to go.
But you can't make me. This stuff is so good.
Just imagining Eli's in a chair and diminutive Zito's like tugging on his knee, like on his robes, like, get the fuck up.
Alright. Well, then I'll just have to take your spell book and I'll just throw it to the wind.
There's a fireplace not too far away from where you're standing.
Oh,
But then I think Eli might get some sense to stop me from that far away.
That's up to Eli. Are you going through his shit?
you mean Eli?
No, Zito. Or Zito, are you going through Eli's shit?
Yeah, I'll do that. If he's
Okay.
too high to stop me.
Okay.
Oh, he's very high.
You go through his pack.
Actually,
Eli,
wait.
are you
Second
going
thought.
Okay.
I'm going to take the Book of George.
Oh, the manual? The manual, well, that would be up to Eli. Do you keep it next to where you're building George?
Yes.
Okay, there's a big-ass book sitting next to this skeletal framework of what will one day be George.
Zito's going to take that. So
Okay.
we're helping Ender and Ari, and then you'll get this back, Eli.
Are you helping me build it?
Also, before I
Yeah,
continue,
sure.
during those 5 days, did you do the final finishing touches to your other project, Zito?
Would I have been able to work on both?
Oh, it was almost done. So you'd be powering it up for the first time.
Yeah, I'll say that I finished it up.
Okay, so Eli, you suddenly feel pressure on the back of your chair as it's suddenly being tilted, and you see the metallic, draconic visage of a quadruped creature that is looking down at you. And you see a metal tongue lick over metal teeth, as it's staring at you with these glowing eyes. And you see it here going... licking its chops.
Zito, is this your father?
Eli, you now see what appears to be a medium-sized quadruped made entirely out of a shining metal.
Zito is going to put the tome into his bag of holding and make
Okay.
his way towards the door. It's time
All
to go,
right.
Eli.
And the quadruped now gets up
And-
and starts stalking after you, a respectable few paces behind you. And
Now, Eli.
I just read what you wrote, Derek. It is true. You are high as shit right now.
What was my incantation? I'm gonna sit
Zito,
here.
are you leaving the chamber?
Yes, I'm going to leave the chamber.
Okay. The doors open to the smiling face of Kraksha. He's looking at you as he's passing your doors. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you going so soon?"
Yeah, yes, I'm done.
And you, from behind you, Zito, you hear a throaty, metallic-sounding, tinny growl as your metallic companion now begins to arch its back, staring straight at this individual. And the individual looks at the creature behind you, Zito, and says, "That is impressive. My friend, I must say you are becoming more and more interesting every moment I see you." And he continues to walk on down the hall away from you, passing all of the many doors from the other demi-planes that are connected to this place. And what are the rest of you doing away from the World Serpent Inn after hearing clear signs of struggle? And then
we're headed back ASAP.
Okay. It's not too difficult for you to find your way back to the starting point where you hailed a means of conveyance before. The Pegasus, it takes hardly any time at all. These Pegasus are fast as shit. And they take you back to the point where you separated from your two companions. Just this expansive individuals milling about, constructs, strange winged metallic creatures flying around, angels, fiends, you name it. Zito, you're leaving the World Serpent Inn?
Yes, I'm gonna wait for the others at the door.
Okay, well they don't know where that is unless you tell them.
Yeah, Lithana
Well,
would
I
be
can
on
tell
her
them at the World
ring.
Serpent Inn. And...
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
we've been here for 5 days. You tell me that we never met up in 5 days.
I would say that you guys probably didn't, because they just spent the last 5 days at the hub. Unless you guys say that you met up with them. That's up to you guys if you want to say that during
I thought
those
that they were
5
doing
days.
like 5.
It wasn't.
That's what I thought. Like they would do the paperwork and then come to them.
Yeah, it wasn't a requirement that you three stay at the library the whole 5 days. You just had to go back and meet Lisette. So you can say that you knew where your friends went. So you guys are heading to the inn?
Yeah.
Okay, the three of you eventually make your way to the familiar site of the World Serpent Inn, and as you enter into the common room of the inn, you can now see the familiar sight of your companion Zito as he is looking around, frantically looking for the rest of you. And you can see now he is walking in lockstep with a very strange-looking creature. And I'll show a picture of an approximation of what this creature looks like. It kind of looks like this, only made of metal. Completely made of shining metal.
Nice.
It actually looks like the one below in the green. In fact, if you wish it to be so, Zito, you can say that you painted him green. So it's a shiny metal that you've painted green. If you want to. That's entirely up to you.
I was thinking the green color came from the adamantine plating.
Okay. So sure, the natural patina of the adamantine plating gives off this sort of a shiny, pearlescent green color. And what color is the creature's eyes?
What color are dragon shards?
It depends on the type. For example, Syrinscape dragon shards have sort of like a goldish orange color to them. Eberron dragon shards have sort of like a pinkish crimson, almost a shift between, like a layer between pink and crimson. And then Kyber dragon shards have a bluish purple color.
Well, I have the dragon shards on me, so let's do Eberron dragon shards.
Okay, so you see this metallic creature who is sitting like a Great Dane standing next to Zito, dwarfing Zito in size. And its eyes are glowing jewels, multifaceted glowing jewels that are glowing this sort of a crimson reddish color. and this bit of a metallic tongue sloughs out of the side of its mouth. It does a blip as it's looking at the rest of you, clearly regarding all of you as friendly.
Zito is going to approach Red and the others. Says, I'm sure you all heard what happened with Ender. We gotta get back to the material plane now.
Yep, let's go.
Which, of course, you would all know that you would need to go back to the Prime Gate, which is the place where all travelers to Danvi go normally to find a way back to their plane of existence, whichever plane they're from.
Nathaniel looks around. Where's Eli?
He's high off his ass somewhere.
He's smoking his pipe. There's a tap on the door, Eli.
I'll walk over there and open it.
It is Kraksha, Mr. Stormbringer.
Yes.
I have more of what you requested earlier. And he now begins to hand you a little pouch, a little leather satchel. No charge. Please, your money is no good here.
Oh, thank you. I'll slip that in my coat pocket.
It's Eli. He just sort of winks at you and says, he gives a little shushing motion with two fingers. And he goes, have you changed your mind?
I don't know where my friend went.
Oh, he left. He went back to the common room. Maybe he was thirsty.
I would have to talk to him before I make any hasty deals, you know.
Yeah, I understand. That's okay. I'm not going to try to push you. I'm not that kind of person. But I do want to be of use. And you and your companion are clearly in need of some assistance to perhaps speed things along. You know, the greasy wheel moves along quicker, more efficient, if you will.
Yes, unless you could freeze time right now, I don't think that'd really be very helpful.
Oh, well, we haven't exactly agreed to the terms, and your companion would have to agree to as well. It would be. I would not wish to put any sort of impropriety on either one of you, especially would not want to talk about a deal that is meant to be made with both of you.
What is this? What do you need from me?
Oh, just a simple thing. Something as simple as... And while this is going on, what are the rest of you guys doing? You guys are back in the common room of the inn, or have you decided to leave and go to the Prime Gate?
Leaving.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to hurry. These people are in danger.
All right, so you guys are running back to... Leaving the inn and blazing towards the Prime Gate, which is... not too far away. You could call a conveyance and get there pretty quickly. So the individual Kraksha continues with you, Eli, essentially just reiterating that he would call upon you someday to essentially call in a favor. The terms of which he would discuss with you when he came to you.
Well, see, I would have to know the favor before I would agree to any terms.
I understand. I very much so understand. And perhaps sometime within the next, however long it takes for you to finish your task, you decide to change your mind, I'll be around. And he turns tail and begins heading towards the exit. Oh, do tell your friend if you see him again. The offer stands for both of you. I would prefer to do it for both of you, but maybe you and I could work something out if you would like before he comes back.
I'll think about it.
Very well. I won't keep you any further. Enjoy the smoke. And he turns tail, walks through the big, wide, tall double doors, and he's gone. Back with the rest of your companions, you are all racing now to the Prime Gate, which looks not that dissimilar from Terminus Station in Sharn, just times 100. It's huge. And there are these giant portals which are spread out all over the place, and you can see one portal which has been identified to you all as the portal back to the material plane. In answer to your question, Eli, you must continue your downtime working on your device in order to complete it. So you would have to be there in order to continue working on it. Essentially, your build would pause until you return to the room.
Didn't Zito take his book?
He did. Can't even work on it while you guys are gone. Well, you do have a teleportation sigil for the Hall of Justice, so you can make a detour. You don't have to go through the Prime Gate if you want to come back to Donby. In answer to your question, Derek, as you type silently in the chat.
Okay, so I can actually cast a spell and beat them there, basically.
Yeah.
Where would the spell lead me? Where would I...
What spell are you using?
If I use teleport circle, technically I'd have to go to a circle.
Yeah, it would only work if you were on the material plane going back to the Hall of Justice. You would need a teleport circle for the material plane in order to go back and forth between the two if you were using teleport circle. So you'd need an established teleport circle. Or you can try your luck and try to get back to Artham using teleport. In the meantime, the rest of you are going towards the gate, correct? You've gone through customs. They've asked you what destination you want to go to.
Are they able to send us directly to Hartham?
Yeah. You ask for the destination.
Zito's destination.
Okay. And they tell you that they'll open it up. If you want to be taken to a very specific place in Hartham, you can. It just has to be a spot where you can all safely get travel to. Like, you can't go into, obviously, solid matter through the gateway.
How about Gutter Guts? Right outside the Gutter Guts.
Right outside Gutter Guts? All right. So you all are passing through the gateway now?
I'm going to make my construct go through the metal detector.
Okay. Boop, 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 boop. It sets off all the alarms. The thing is just sort of looking around, like, nervously and then looking back at you.
It'll be fine. Come on. Let's go.
You haven't even named him yet.
So, when he's around for a name.
Okay. So as you guys pass through this roiling, boiling, it almost looks like the surface of a giant hot tub stood up on its end. And one by one, you pass through this roiling, boiling gate now, and you're out in the street in front of Gutter Guts. And it's calm. Familiar sounds of the swamp around you. Light sound of the insects, the bugs. At first. Then you start to hear another sound. As bells begin to ring. And there's an acrid smell of smoke. And as you're all gaining your bearings and looking around you now, you can see that the sky is aglow above the buildings, as if possibly there are multiple fires burning, buildings burning, and you can hear now the sounds of individuals who are yelling.
That way, guys, let's go.
What would you all like to do?
I'm running in that direction.
What direction are you
Follow
running?
music.
Wherever the glow is the brightest.
It's coming, looking around you all, it's coming from multiple directions. It's almost as if there's multiple buildings on fire all around you in the distance.
The one to my left.
The one to your left?
Yeah, whatever the closest glow is to my left, I'm running that way.
Okay. As you're looking in that direction, you can see people wearing cloaks with hoods pulled up, running, and then suddenly turn northward, like they're going to the base of the spire. One of them looked back in the direction as you looked towards them, and then hurriedly started running in that direction.
Get there, guys. Let's get them.
I follow music.
All right, we take off after them.
And but is Ender inside gutter guts?
As you're running in the direction, you're all following after music.
Yeah, I'm gonna yell back to Zito. Try to contact him on the ring. See if he's still in the same location.
And
Zito's gonna go to his ring whenever he gets the chance.
getting your
Go ahead,
bearings.
or Jeremy.
Getting your bearings right now on time, you feel like it's just before sunrise. The golden band of the band of Sybaris is up in the sky still, but in the distance, just beyond the horizon, you can see the very early signs of the sun about to rise. So you all are following after music, is that correct?
Did Ender reply to my message?
I don't know, did he? What did you say to him?
I asked him where he was.
You used your ring, correct?
Yes.
You hear someone breathing heavily, just like like wincing, and then you can hear it's like, quiet, stop talking, and then you hear a smack, and you hear someone yell in common, quiet you. What has he got? He's got something. Search him again. And then the sound cuts out.
We got Ender.
And you guys are running now towards Music's direction. Music, you're going towards the base of the tower, correct?
I'm going wherever the robed individuals are going.
Okay, yeah, they ran past a couple of trees. Not really too far, actually, from where the mayor's house is, but not close either. Just near the base of, like, part of the spire. And as you are all rushing forth, what's the party's, like, setup? How are you guys lined up? Music, you're going first, and then who? What's the order?
I guess I'll be last.
Okay.
And I think Red will be up front.
Red will be
Going to help
up,
everyone.
like, behind Music?
Yeah, behind music.
Okay, and then Luthana, where are you at?
I'm a bit behind everyone.
So you're behind Zito.
Sure.
Okay. So it's Music, then Red, then Zito, then Luthana, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Music, as you're rushing through towards the base of the tower, you're hearing this crunching noise. And you're hearing this sound of, it just sounds like rocks, like being pulverized. and you watch as a massive insect-like creature bursts through the ground near the base of the spire, creating a 10-foot diameter hole. And you see more insect-like creatures that begin to swarm out of the hole. I need you all to roll initiative. I guess I need to take Lisette off of here, huh?
Oh, hey, she's still with us. Cool.
Let's see. Lathana music. I need to add Zito on here. I'm sorry, Zito. Boom. Zito, you're on there and you can roll initiative for me again.
I'll be fighting things in the background. I'll get there eventually.
Okay, let me share a map with you guys. You can move your characters where you were when you first approached. You guys are essentially like down here, like right at the base of the tree. But you can move your characters around if you like. The map might take a moment to load. And meanwhile, Eli is getting high as a mofo back in Donvi. Zito, feel free to move Red where you think she'd be.
I think there's about fine.
Okay. And boom, there you go. So on the creature has just burst through the wall, and is just like, it's like rising up to its full height. It's enormous. This thing is like 25 feet tall as it's raising itself up. You see multiple segmented sections of its body and these hacking long spear-like arms, multi-legs. It looks like a mix between a locust and a centipede. And let's see. Whoops. Guess I better lock those tokens again. Boom. There we go. All right. And it suddenly starts churning and immediately creates this horrible screeching noise, chittering screeching noise as it dives under the ground directly in front of it and is gone. And the rest of these creatures now are scuttling and are now running, this one full speed towards you, Music, as it is rushing towards you. This other one, now seeing you, is now rushing towards you as well. Actually, okay, yeah. That one would not. That one will just, sorry. Retcon. This one is going to sort of, this one's just going to sort of scuttle in this direction. The other one scuttled towards you and then stopped. And Lathana, it's your turn. There's no light source over here. It's dim light to everyone else. With your dark vision, you can all see these creatures. You can see a couple of robed individuals who are both now striking. They were striking torches as they were getting close to where you all are now.
I will cast Hunter's Mark on the crawler attacking Music.
Okay.
And it being the first round, I actually get 3 attacks, so I will aim and fire.
Eli's like, where's my... Eli, meanwhile, Eli's like, where's my book? 22 definitely hits. As you deal a hefty 18 piercing magical damage to the creature. You can see now, you just blow a chunk in the side of this creature as you hit it again with your second attack, and it splits apart like a piece of sweetbread that got wet and fell on the ground.
And I'll shoot for the one nearest me, across the field.
Okay. That is unfortunately a natural 1 on your third attack.
And that ends my turn.
Okay. Music, you see that this robed individual has sparked a torch now and has created this this glowing area.
I have a question for you, Jeremy.
Sure.
When it comes to casting spells, if a spell is a bonus action, can I cast that bonus action and then cast another spell as an action?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
If a spell cast as a bonus action, can I cast that spell and then cast another spell as my action?
The rule is 1 spell, 1 cantrip.
Yeah.
One spell, 1 cantrip. So I couldn't do like a level 1 and a level 2.
One spell, one of your spells has to be a spell that can be cast as a bonus action. You can't cast two spells per round. You can only cast a spell, and you can cast a spell that has an action, an action time of a bonus action.
Okay, but one of those has to be a cantrip, correct?
I don't know if it necessarily has to be a cantrip, but most spells that have a bonus action are usually cantrips, with the exception of like a healing word.
Well, Hex is a level 1 spell and is a bonus action.
Okay, so you could use your bonus action to cast Hex.
Okay, then. I'm going to Hex. Who is this right here? That Mind Mage back there. It's 40 feet from me.
Okay.
Giving him disadvantage on wisdom saves.
Gotcha. You can drop that on him if you haven't already done so.
It doesn't actually drop like that. Does it? Yes. But it doesn't do the... It doesn't do the other one.
According to Derek, it's only 1 spell per turn other than a cantrip.
So if I Misty Step as a bonus action, I have to cast a cantrip. I can't cast another spell as an action.
Then I won't cast Hex then. Thank you.
Okay. No worries. Somebody remind me the range of a torch. Was that 20 bright and 20 dim light?
I think I have a torch. I'll look it up.
Okay.
I do not have a torch.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, he can see you. So this horrible insect-like creature that looks like a deus comes scuttling towards you, Music, just like and then tries to bite you. Oh crap. This thing is ridiculous. Okay, first it tries to bite your leg, it misses, and then it tries to slash you with its claws 2 times. The first one hitting, dealing 4 slashing damage to you. The second attack also hits, dealing 4 slashing damage to you, and then spins around and hits you with its tail, or it tries to. But this time it misses you as you just managed to get out of the way of its tail attack. This thing, just so you all understood, this thing attacked 4 times. and it's slobbering and making this horrible, high, screeching, chittering noise. And this creature is just going to sort of amble around. It seems to be sniffing the air. The Mind Master now sort of walks forth, torch in one hand, a dagger in the other. And holding it out, he sees you, Music. He sees the other creature is rushing towards you. He walks forth, and he looks like a dais. Whoops. There we go. It's a diminutive, skull-faced dwarf.
Cute.
Let's see. Make an intelligence saving throw, Music. Okay. Music, are you affected by charms? I should have asked you that first.
Hold on 1 second.
I don't think I've ever had to actually ask this question. Nope, you're not affected by you don't have any sort of bonuses like a fey creature does.
No, I don't think so. I think I'm completely susceptible.
So it's free hand with the dagger in it. You could see energy, light, this almost like a dark purplish light start to manifest in its hand that's holding the dagger. It looked like it was getting ready to stow that dagger, and then it sort of like tilted its head to the side as it's staring at you, and then shook it really fast. And that's the end of its turn. What does Red do on her turn?
I think Red will go into a blind rage and start hitting stuff with her sword.
Okay, go for it.
With the closest one first, and I think she'll do a reckless attack.
Go for it. Okay, you managed to hit twice with the sword. First dealing 20 slashing damage, and then coming down overhand chop with the greatsword. Red cuts the creature in half right in front of you, Music.
I think she'll run up to the door Garnet.
Okay.
And that'll be her turn.
All right. The correspond is going to rush towards Red and is going to target her. And you watch as a flurry of attacks begins biting. And I need Red to make a wisdom save. Okay, she's okay. The creature now begins slashing. First dealing 2 damage, reduced down. And then hitting with a 22, dealing 3 damage, reduced down from 6. And then once again tries to do that tail whipping attack, but misses Red. The other's correspond is now going to rush forth in a random direction, and as it gets closer to you, Music, it sort of sniffs and is now looking at you and chittering noisily. The Mind Mage, holding his torch up in the air. He now, looking around, he just sort of skates around the outskirts, so to speak, and is looking at each of you, any of you that are looking in the direction of this being as he's holding his torch out. He looks to you, Music, and you suddenly feel this strange sensation, and I need you to make a wisdom saving throw. Okay. Great.
Is this a charm effect?
It is a charming effect on Music.
Okay. So,
Not on,
just on music.
Just on Music, not on you.
Okay, gotcha.
So it failed. You're not sure what he was trying to do, but it seemed to be affecting your wisdom. And you just hear him yell out something in common. He just yells, "Shit!" And now you can see he's looking around, scanning. He's looking over towards Red, who is right next to the Duragar in that little creepy crawly thing, and looking out, he sees Zito crouched down just beyond the dim light of his torch. And he's looking like he's not quite able to see you from this distance. And Zito, it's your turn. Would you like me... I'm so very sorry. Would you like me to put your friend on the board?
Sure. No,
I'll...
it's supposed to have its own initiative, but it can just go after me.
Okay. We'll make him a 3, and we're going to put him on the board. We'll say he's right next to you.
Alright. Zito is going to look at the one holding the torch, and he's going to cast Pyrotechnics.
Okay.
And it's going to make a bright light, and everyone within, was it a 10-foot radius, has to make a Constitution saving throw or be blinded.
Okay. I think it's just him. So he needs to make a con save.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. He failed. He rolled a 4. I'm pretty sure a 4 fails, right?
4 definitely fails. And so, let's see, how long is he blinded for? Until the end of my next turn.
Gotcha. And is that your action?
That is my action. And I guess as my bonus action, I'm going to look towards my construct. I'm going to tell him, go get him.
Go get him, boy. All right. That ends your turn?
Yes.
All right. On the guard Drake's turn, what would you like him to do?
He's going to go get that now blind, that mind mage. He's going to go maul him up.
Let me give you that card. Boom. There you go. You can now control his abilities.
So the guard is going to run up towards the mind maid and let's see.
You should be able to move, notate on the board where he moves. There you go. So he's going to use his full action and movement to get there.
Oh yeah, I'll say he uses an action to dash up there.
Okay, so you just hear the sound, Lithana. You hear the sound as this thing just launches itself towards this light source of this guy who's rubbing his eyes with one of his arms as he's holding the torch out in front of it defensively, and he just starts stalking and bounding towards this thing, making this shrieking, shrill noise as it goes towards him.
And that'll be my turn.
Okay. The crawler closest to Red is suddenly makes a skittering, screeching noise and goes rushing towards her. Or Ashley is getting beat up on by these things as it tries to bite, misses, and then tries to claw at her, missing with its first attack, hitting with its second attack, and then striking with its tail, critically hitting with its tail, dealing 4 damage reduced down from 9. The other one now is going to continue to whack on her as well, biting, hitting. Go ahead and make another wisdom save there, Zito.
It was if you're red, correct?
This is red, correct.
And wisdom save.
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Okay, unfortunately, red is now frightened of this creature.
Does that work when she's enraged?
I don't know, is she immune to frighten? I don't think rage has anything to do with frighten, but let's take a look.
No, I think that's Berserker.
Or maybe.
I think that's just Berserker.
Yeah. She can still be frightened of something even though she's really pissed off. She's like, ugh, you know, staring at it. Okay, the creature continues to claw at her with its claws, attacking, missing, hitting on its second claw attack, and then once again trying to whack her with its tail. Almost a crit, dealing 3 damage reduced down from 7. And it is Red's turn. Red, if I'm not mistaken, frightened means that she must move away, or she can't move towards the object of her fear.
I think they also get disadvantage on attack rolls against you, if I'm not mistaken. But
I'll look that up while you decide how you want to take this turn.
Thinking that she's afraid of this bug-like creature, I think she's going to use her turn to try and bash it with her sword.
Frightened creature has disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls while in the source of its fears within eyesight. The creature cannot willingly move closer to the source of its fear, which doesn't really matter because it's right in front of her.
Yeah, which one is it? The correspond 3 or 4?
The one right next to her right. The one right below the Duergar.
So she'll relentlessly attack that one.
Okay, go for it. Rolling with disadvantage. She's freaked out. She's pissed and she's freaked out.
I don't know why it keeps using Zito. I'm on red. Character.
That's weird.
Maybe I can just drag it on top of the token.
Yeah. Well, just keep in mind, if you roll a critical hit, it may not roll damage correctly if you do that. You drag and drop an attack, it doesn't do criticals correctly.
Try this one.
All right. Well, right now you're targeting the Mind Mage and the Correspond. Want me to help you out? Boom.
I don't know what's going on with my character.
Who are you trying to attack? Just tell me. I'll help you.
I'm trying to attack the Correspond.
Okay. Boom. She's targeting it.
And does fear automatically put disadvantage on?
It should. We'll find out when she attacks.
Yeah. So I'm just going to do advantage right now.
Okay. Okay, that's a hit. And dealing 20 damage to the creature with your first attack. Are you gonna hit it again? Hey!
Yep.
Almost a crit. 25, still hits. As she carves into this creature, annihilating it.
And does she have a bonus action you can do? She can bite, right?
If she has used an action to shift and give herself temporary hit points, she can do that. I think she has a bonus action to do that. Shifting, let's take a look. Yep, bonus action. You gain temporary hit points equal to your level plus your Constitution modifier. So she's level 10, so she would get 13 temporary hit points if you want to give that to her.
Yeah, I'll let her use the bonus action and shift.
Okay, she shifts. I went ahead and put it on there for you.
And that'll be your turn.
Okay. Crawler 6 rushes up behind you, Music, and it slovenly attempts to bite you on the back of your construct leg, just narrowly missing. It then attempts to slash you, cutting into your leg, dealing 3 damage, slashing with its other claw, once again connecting, doing 3 damage, and then trying to whack you with its tail, which it manages to hit you. So it's just like this bite, miss, slash, whack with the tail. And you take 5 damage from the tail. As you're all of a sudden, this thing just comes up behind you. You're like, what the? It's kind of like when a dog, when you throw a ball and they just sort of skitter step run after it. That's what it was like when it ran up behind you. And Lithana, it is your turn. You just watch as this thing is wailing on Music.
Okay. Lithana will do what? So if Lithana steps under the tree right here,
Yeah.
is she in pretty much darkness?
Yeah, you're in pitch black darkness. There is no light source right now. You're just outside of the dim light range of that Mind Mage's torch.
Awesome.
That torch should be extinguished now.
Oh, should it?
That's what pyrotechnics does.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me take that. Remove pointers. Boom. Oh, it's pitch black right now.
What's the name of the map again? My map closed out.
I'll share it again. There you go.
Thank you.
Oh, you know what? I totally forgot. It's nighttime.
So wait. So Lithana,
Right.
how far out can Lithana see?
Lithana, you have dark vision, correct? Up to 60 feet?
Okay. Yes. Yep.
Nope, 90 feet. You can see up to 90 feet. You can see everything.
Well,
This is your
I'll look over at that
favorite
mage.
your favored time of the day, your favorite terrain, essentially.
It is, and she's even under a tree. Wow, couldn't be any better. So she's pretty much invisible. She will cast Hunter's Mark on the Mind Mage,
Okay.
and she would take a shot.
All right. That's a hit. That's a heavy 14 damage as you fire into it. You just see this guy who was covering his eyes, rubbing his face, and then suddenly he's just like, fuck! And he just arcs back as your arrow catches him in the shoulder. It whizzed over the top of the metallic drake creature.
And then I will sharpshoot him, try to hit him in the neck.
Go for it. That's another hit. An 18 definitely hits. As another arrow, this time getting very close to his heart, and you just hear him call out, "Gah!"
And that's the end of my turn, and she will just kind of be hidden under the tree and be like, wow, this is really nice. End of turn.
Okay. The Mind Master's turn. Let's see. He is going to extinguish his light source. He also had a light source. And Red just hears him chuckle evilly. And he is going to begin attempting to stab. Let's see. First one. First one he's going to try to stab at Red with his dagger. Dagger. And he manages to hit her. And Red takes one. Holy shit. 1 damage reduced down from 18, guys.
Nice.
And he thought that was going to be so awesome. He's just like, the fuck? She needs to make an intelligence saving throw.
Hopefully this works.
Okay, unfortunately, she fails. Red lets out this mournful oh, and then it makes her run in this direction 10 feet. And she just sort of stupidly is like holding her sword at the side and like shaking her head. And that's the end of his turn. She takes a opportunity attack from Correspond Crawler 3. Tries to slash at her. But misses. The other crawler now sniffing, howling, screeching, running towards her. And begins trying to lay into Red. First trying to bite her. Missing. And then clawing at her. I should mention, these things are hitting without a light source. I don't know if I mentioned that or made that clear. And Zito, it is your turn.
All right. Zito is going to make his way up towards Red.
Okay.
Right, 25 feet. He's going to cast Sanctuary on Red.
Okay. Theo, you have dark vision, don't you?
Yeah, Kobolds definitely a dark vision.
Okay.
They invented it.
Yeah, they did. Is that the end of your turn, Zito?
Yep, that will be the end of my turn.
Okay. So there is, as you finish your turn, there is suddenly a rumbling sensation in the ground beneath you, as suddenly a creature, the creature that you all saw burst through that solid rock at the base, bursts up out of the ground. It looks like this. Screaming, screeching noise as it bursts up out of the ground right next to you.
Oh shit.
And immediately starts wailing into you. Let's see. The first thing it does, as it bursts up out of the ground, I need music. You have dark vision, correct?
That is correct.
Well, let's see. I need to draw a circle. I think it's going to get everyone. Yeah. Okay. So I need... I guess I could just click on all of you. Oh, no. It only works on one person. So it's going to work on... Well, why not? It's going to work on you, Zito. So go ahead and make a wisdom save. As this thing is looming large above you. Unfortunately, that is a failure. Would you like to use your inspiration?
You know what I would.
Go for it.
Damn it.
Unfortunately, you are paralyzed at the sight of this creature as it looms large over you and then tries to slash at you with its claws, slashing downward like scythes. Its first attack, that's a 19. I don't think you can use anything once you're paralyzed, correct? You can't cast a spell.
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I think if you're paralyzed, that's a critical hit.
Yeah. I mean, you take 21. I could be wrong. Somebody can answer if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's as critical. I think it would have rolled as a critical if it would.
I don't know about 5e, but in second edition, paralyzed and prone were automatic crits.
Yep, it is an automatic crit. If you hit, it's an automatic crit.
Oh shit, you're right. Okay. So
basically, it's like chopping on someone's head. I mean, because they're paralyzed, they can't stab you.
Well, we'll just double the damage then. You are down 42 hit points with that first attack, Zito. In answer to your question, Derek, time passes by very fast on your plane. So essentially, this is going on within seconds. So you're sitting in the chair right now, going, "Ooh." Are you make another con check? We'll see if you're well enough to come to your senses. You are not well enough to come to your senses.
No.
I am sorry. Okay, it's going to slash at you again with its claws. I'm so very sorry, Zito. That's another critical hit, correct?
Yeah, 22 definitely hits.
Okay. Zito is knocked unconscious as it slashes into you, blood spattering onto it and all around it. Luthana, you watch as this terrifying creature just splatters Zito, and Zito falls unconscious as it turns its attention now to you, Music. And now it's going to attempt to bite you. But a 14 misses just narrowly. What happens to your guard drake? Does it just like exist? It's not like it's a summoned creature. It just does its thing, right?
Yeah, it just exists.
Okay.
Try to...
the creature heard your blood-curdling scream as Zito is knocked unconscious. So it's up to you what it would do in response.
I think we'll try and attack a giant insect.
Okay, you're gonna have it go after the insect?
Yes.
I believe at the end of your turn, the Mind Mage is no longer blind, correct?
Yes, no longer blind.
Okay, I'll go ahead and mark him as no longer blinded. He is finally come to his senses. He's looking out around. It's pitch black. It's not his turn yet. What is Zito doing?
Well, Zito's bleeding out.
No, I'm sorry. I meant, what is the guard drake doing?
Yeah, it's going to try and maul this insect.
Okay, it's not the Mind Mage's turn yet, but he can see now. So he's going to attempt to do an opportunity attack on your friend. He's going to attempt to slash at the guard drake with his dagger, but he misses as your drake rushes towards the horrifying insect. And what would you like to do with him? Is he going to do his attacks? He has 2 attacks, if I'm not mistaken, right? He can do an attack with his bite and one with his tail.
Yeah, it's going to try and latch on with his jaws and whip his tail back and forth.
I whip my tail back and forth.
Yeah, he's going to whip it.
He's going to whip it.
I don't think I can actually activate the commands for these. At least I'm not familiar with how to do that.
We'll figure it out later if Zito survives. Or your next character will be an artificer, right? Unfortunately, that first attack is a miss, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think you're targeting the creature, by the way. Yeah, both attacks miss.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay.
I'll target him in the meantime. Music, it is your turn. Music makes you lose control. There's a giant bug just took out Zito and
Yeah, I saw that.
is in your face.
All right, I'm targeting Core Spawn, Crawler 6, and the Burrowing Horror, and I'm casting Confusion.
Go for it. Okay. Let's see. The crawler failed and the burrowing horror succeeded. It rolled a 21 and the core spawn rolled a 4.
Okay. And with my bonus action, I would like. Nope. Let me see. Hold on. And I am done.
Okay. On the Mind Mage's turn, he is going to strike his. He strikes his torch once again, or grabs another one out of his pack, pulls it out, lights it alight, and he is going to just clear this. Thank you. He is going to yell out, "We need some help over here!" That's his turn. And it's his turn again. Okay, then. He looks out. He sees you, Music, and he is going to cast... He's going to attempt to cast Suggestion on you. Go ahead and make a Wisdom save. Okay. He tells you... you should really leave. Run away. Now.
Not a bad idea.
And
do you want me to go ahead and use the rest of this turn now?
Let's, well, it's not. It'll be on your turn when you do this.
Okay.
All right. So the rest of the correspond now. This one is rushing up to red. It misses with its bites. Oh, it does?
Yep, Sanctuary is still up.
Oh, that's true. Let's make a Wisdom save to see if it can actually... Whoops, that's a con save. Wisdom save. 14. Does that do it?
It does not.
Okay, well then it's not attacking her. It's going to stop right where it is, stupidly staring at her. The other one will do the same thing, making a Wisdom save. Rolls 11, it does nothing, and it's Red's turn. Red is still frightened. No, actually, it's no longer frightened. That thing is dead. So we'll take the frightened effect off of her. She comes to her... She's coming to her senses. That only lasted for one round. She's shaking her head and looking around. She heard the sound of the iron kobold screaming out and then silence. And now she's freaking out and turning around with her greatsword swinging around her.
I think she's going to... will she do that? Yeah, I think she would. I think she'll attack the giant bug.
The giant bug? So she's going to take opportunity attacks from the Mind Master. Oh, wait. They have to make saves, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll roll a save for the Mind Master. He fails. I'll just go ahead and roll...
DC
16?
Yeah.
Okay. The Crawler is going to slash at her. As she runs away, misses narrowly. The other one is going to also attempt to slash at her. Also rolls a 16. Slashing at her. And rolling a natural 1 as she runs past all three of them, hurling herself towards the burrowing giant insect.
And this will be a reckless attack.
Go for it. And you guys could really use a wizard right about now. That is a hit. A 29 definitely hits the burrowing creature. Dealing 14 damage, slashing magical damage. You hit on your second attack with the greatsword, carving into the back of its carapace, dealing 19 slashing magical damage to the creature. It seems almost unaffected by the attacks. Like, she did hefty damage to it, but it doesn't seem to respond at all to her hits.
And then she'll bite it for good measure.
Okay. Tasty.
Would that be the fang attack?
Yes, sir. That's a hit. That's 11 damage, biting into the ass end of this creature. It is bearing down on music.
And Sanctuary is no longer in effect now that she attacked.
Okay, so we'll take the Sanctuary effect off of her. There we go. Is that the end of her turn?
Yes.
All right, Zito, make a death save.
I don't want to.
Aw. Just don't roll a 1. Why are you rolling at disadvantage? Or you rolled twice, so we're going to take one of those failures off. You failed, unfortunately, with your first death save roll.
Yeah, unfortunately, Fantasy Arrows doesn't really do anything half the time unless I double click on it.
Aw.
I guess that's my turn.
Yeah. So this correspondent is going to continue to wail into you.
Is he still under my confusion effect?
Oh, you're right. He is confused, so he didn't do anything. How long does the confusion last on him?
He can make a wisdom save at the end of this turn and try to get out of it.
Okay, so other than that, he does nothing?
No, I'm going to tell you what he does. I got to roll a 1d10 for him.
Go for it. That's a 7. Oh, the creature uses its action to make a melee attack against a randomly determined creature within its reach. The only creatures within its reach are you and the burrowing horror. So roll a d20, and I will roll a d20 for the horror. And we'll say the lower the roll, the higher the chance you get hit. Okay, I rolled a 2, so it's going to hit the horror.
Confusion's awesome.
So it just like it turns away from you, looking up at it. Presumably its daddy. And tries to slash at its daddy and manages to hit it, and dealing 6 damage to it. Is that the end of its turn? I believe.
I don't know. Does it make more than one attack in its action?
It does 4 attacks.
Well, let's go.
Okay, it's gonna do the other slashing attacks. This burrowing horror is very confused right now. As it's getting wailed on by this tiny little guy who is hitting with every single attack. And misses with its bite. In response, the burrowing horror turns its attention away from you, music. And it's almost as if it's like, you little fuck. And it just wails into this creature and turns it into salsa. Hitting it repeatedly over and over again until it just turns into mush. And it roars and then turns back to you, music, and then turns and looks at this little drake that's next to it. And then lunges down, biting into the drake, hitting it and dealing 33 piercing damage to the drake.
Jesus.
And it is your turn, actually. Yeah, no. It's going to... It starts burrowing under the ground, leaving a 10-foot wide hole around where it was. And now it's your turn, music.
Okay, I need to run away, right?
You can take an opportunity attack on it if you want, and the guard drake can as well. And so can Red.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Oh, wait, why can't I?
Because you're unconscious.
It disappeared from my combat tracker, though.
Oh, sorry. Let me put it back on the tracker so you can hit it. Yeah, it started to like sink back down into the ground, burrowing back under the ground, away from you all. Okay, music misses with his opportunity attack. The red hits, slash into the creature, dealing 21 slashing magical damage. Zito, you can roll your guard drake's attack if you like. And just so you know, guys, it is after 10, so this will be the last round. The guard drake bites into the creature, tearing a piece of its armored carapace off, and spatter of matter comes out of its body as it does. And Music, it is your turn.
Okay, do I have any type of save against that suggestion?
Oh, that's right. It's your turn, so you're running away.
Yep.
You shouldn't have actually been able to get a reaction, correct? If you're under the ability of a suggestion. I think you...
It's okay, I missed anyway.
Yeah, you missed anyway. We'll say that it was part of the confusion. Yeah, you on your confusion, it told you to run away, so you can use your full movement to run away if you like. Your full movement, I believe, would be 70 feet.
It's bigger than the map.
Yeah, bigger than the map. So we'll just say that Music runs off camera.
Exit stage right.
Music is gone. Zito is unconscious. Music just ran away screaming. I don't even know if he would be screaming.
No, I ran past that mind mage and said, "Good looking out, bro," and took off.
Okay.
And Eli is high in a different dimension.
Yeah. On the Mind Master's phase, it takes its dagger again, walking up behind Red with an evil grin, and begins once again trying to stab her in the back. First dealing 6 damage, reduced down from 9, and then trying to stab her again, repeatedly stabbing over and over. But
remember,
this time.
Jeremy, that it should have an advantage because she did a reckless attack.
Oh, advantage? Okay, on both of those attacks?
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll say she still missed. It's still missed. Lithana, it's your turn. You're just seeing like horror going on around you. Zito is unconscious, bleeding out. Music has just run away. A giant cockroach just tried to eat Zito and slashed up your friends, and then burrowed under the ground. Things are not looking good.
Yeah, no. Well, Lithana's going to do the only thing she's good at. Shoot
Not
it.
looking bad for Music.
Lithana will try to take out the Mind Mage.
Okay.
What does she do? Okay.
That's a hit. 27 definitely hits. Dealing 9 damage.
Okay, and then she will sharp shoot it as well. Dang it. And that's the end of her turn. Yep.
Would you like to do anything else?
She can't, except call Eli, be like, Eli, we're dying.
Yeah, on your next turn, you can use your ring to talk to Eli, or try to get his attention.
Yeah.
We'll say that you're getting ready to yell into your ring. The guard drake gets one more turn. Oh, that's right. Eli isn't attuned to his ring. And what does the drake do on its turn? Rushing towards the Mind Master. Unfortunately,
it's gonna try and
it misses with its bite.
Oh, it's gonna trip it with the tail.
And then tries to whack him with the tail. It hits. Dealing 8 bludgeoning damage to the creature. And
it'll snarl at it with its broken jaw.
the battle continues. The view of this area seems to go up, 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 overhead. And as the image of Hartham turns from the view of your battlefield to that of the whole village, you can see pinpricks of light, of fires blazing all over. You can see movement and you can hear the sounds somewhere in the distance of people screaming and yelling, the sounds of swords and weapons clashing. A brilliant, bright light is beginning to grow. The very apex of the Titan's reach, the top of the spire, is expanding out to fill up the whole entire space at the very top of the spire. Somewhere in another realm of existence, in a workshop, the wizard Eli sits in his chair, contemplating life's choices, holding a pipe up to his lips. Go ahead and make another con check, Eli.
Should I ask Lithana out, or should I not? Wow.
We'll find out next time. That is where we will end for tonight.
Well, I've got boots of speed. I didn't think about it, but I could have moved 140 away from that fight.
That's true.
Yeah, I think Eli and Music are perfectly safe right now.
Well, I mean, Lithana's invisible to, like, most creatures, so I think she'll be okay. Zito that, like, I'm worried about. Red should be okay. Red might be okay. Till that thing surfaces again and starts wailing on her.
I can resurrect Zito within 10 days. So he's got up to 10 days to be resurrected by me.
Just gotta get that body.
Just gotta get to the body.
Surprised I think they didn't eat him yet.
Welcome to the beginning of the end, guys.
Have you ever eaten kobold, though? It's not
That's
good.
true.
Trust me, Zito's fine.
Wow.
Now, he might have to build another Drake, but Zito will be A-okay.
Oh boy. Yeah, that Drake is not looking good. I mean, I think as long as he gets the body of the Drake, he can rebuild it. Right, Zito?
I mean, he's Zito. He could build a new one if he needs to. He just borrows some money off Eli. Eli's got enough.
I heard my name called just as I was walking away. I heard my name called just as I was walking away. And then silence.
Silence.
Was that you calling me, Derek?
Me? No. Silence.
They are in a library, you know.
I'm pretty sure it was that devil that was giving out drugs before.
A devil?
That's what I'm gonna call him.
Come on, man! This guy was trying to hook you guys up, and you're gonna turn away a quick power up.
I don't
For
know
a
that guy.
cost. If it was free, now we're talking.
I mean, he did ask simply for a favor. The terms of which he'll discuss with you when he asks the favor.
Exactly. That itself shows you Sadie.
Very, very tricky. Many, many, many people named Castellanter.
I say Castellan is a popular name.
What's that all about?
I think our next campaign, I'm gonna have my character named Castellanter.
Yeah, me too.
Just think.
What is this about naming someone Castellanter?
Both Derek and Ryan are going to name their characters Castellanter in their next campaign.
Yeah, mine's
Oh, okay.
senior and he's junior.
It was funny. I had glanced at the chat as I was going through that moment back at the workshop and watching Sabrina yelling over and over again, "Inside check!"
Eli has some
Yeah.
special drugs.